Hey, this is Anney
and Samantha.
And welcome to Stuff I Never Told You, production of iHeartRadio. And welcome to another edition of Happy Hour. As always, if you choose to drink or whatever you choose to do so responsibly. Samantha, are you sipping on anything?
Got my good old trusty bubble water. What about you?
Nice. I have a light beer.
Ooh.
It is cold. It is very hot today.
Yes.
But I don't know. I'm cold natured, so I'm still wearing like a hoodie.
Sure are.
Yeah. Which kind of relates to a follow-up I wanted to do about my recent visit to the ER.
All right. Let's talk about it.
Okay. There were a couple of points that I mentioned in passing and didn't really get into detail. One is I said something about like going as an ace person.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't really expound upon that. And I should have, because it wasn't that they were like, are you pregnant? I understand that's a real question you need to ask.
Right.
Like that's a very important thing to know, especially if you're going to have x-rays, which I did. No, what I meant was maybe it was just me being in my head, because at that point I said in the previous episode where I was talking about this, I have to be so 100% sure before I go to the doctor. And this is like the ultimate level of going to the doctor. So I was having all these doubts in my head about it. Like, should I have gone? Should I not have gone? All that stuff. It was more about how they kept asking me, you live alone? There's no one for you? Which I guess they were trying to say, like, no one could have driven you or something else. I don't know. Again, I could be totally misreading the situation, but so many like of the people I saw were like, you live alone? This kind of tone. And I wanted to be like, yeah, I don't understand why that's such a sticking point for you.
You know, that actually was a question that was asked to me recently when I went to my physical therapy evaluation. And she asked, so do you live alone? I said, no, I have a partner, but he's not here right now. And she was like, oh, but you don't live alone. Like, she made sure I'm like, no. She's like, okay, great. And I was like, wait, what? Why? What? I mean, I understand if we need to care for her, but I'm like, he's not there when I'm going through this. So I don't know why this is, what?
Yeah. It was strange. It was strange how often it got brought up. And I just got the impression that they thought I was like the saddest, possibly on drugs, patient. But because they were very quick to be like, oh, this is stress.
Yeah.
Do you live alone? Like all of these things. Another thing that came up that I mentioned very briefly, but I've learned is something that's really happening a lot right now, is that I got a lot of, oh, you're too young. You're too young for that. You're too young for this. And outside of just my experience hearing that, I've heard that multiple times. I've heard that throughout my life. I've recently learned, independently of what happened to me, there has been an increase in a lot of cancers amongst younger people. And a lot of times it'll be dismissed of like, oh, you're too young. And I do think Will Rerun, a classic about self-diagnosing, I think that's like tied up in it. But there has been an increase of younger Americans, and particularly women, who, go in and they're like, have all these symptoms and they're like, oh, you're too young. That's that can't be it. It just happens sometimes, or it's just this, or it's just stress. That's what a lot of people got. And that's what I got too. Oh, it's just stress. And then they go multiple times over the years. And then unfortunately, finally, somebody's like, oh no, you have cancer or something, like something very serious. And they're like, yeah,
I knew something was wrong.
And it's just kind of frustrating because I get it. I have a lot of friends who work in the medical industry, and I've heard their complaints about people who come in like all the time and are not honest. with their symptoms. I actually think I kind of hamstrung myself with how honest I was being because I knew that.
Right.
And so I was trying to be so honest. And I feel like I kind of downplayed my symptoms.
Oh, that's what I do.
Yeah, because at first they kept asking about heart pain. And I was like, it's more of a tightness. But it had been a pain earlier.
Mm-hmm.
But they didn't ask about earlier. They just
Right.
asked about then. So I was just
Me
trying
too.
to be like honest and be like, no, right now it's just a tightness. And I was really, and they gave me like the pain scale. And I was like, I don't know.
Yeah,
I can barely focus right now.
That is so misleading because I always put lower numbers in my head because I don't know. And then like we've talked about like pain tolerance, like what because I was basing it without any like references. The pain scale on mine was like, at 3 it's mild pain, at 8 it's like moderate pain. I'm like, wait, and that's a high number to me, but I'm like, no, it was definitely so I would always put myself at 5, 6, 7 because I didn't want to be like, it's not awful. But then like on the scale it says 9, you can't sleep. And I was like, oh yeah, I was there. But I wouldn't have described that as 9 because it was bad. I hated it, but it wasn't the worst thing that I'd ever gone through. So I was like, how's that a 9? So in my mind, it was a 7 because yes, it's not working. Someone needs to redo this, revamp this.
I agree. I do the same thing. I'm like, because it sounds wild to me to be like, oh yeah, it's a 9 unless I'm on the verge of the most painful death.
Exactly.
Could ever
I'm like 9 is almost death and 10 is dead.
Right. But painful death. So they were asking me and I didn't even have the scale in front of me. I was like, I don't know.
Right.
6. I don't know.
Why are you asking me these questions? These are so like interpretive.
Right. Right. And I know that's difficult. They do experience pain differently, so it is tricky. But I just felt like at that moment, that was not what I needed to see or hear. But it was also one of those things where, yeah, I'm stressed. I have been stressed. I think a lot of us are stressed. But I think within the first 5 minutes when I got in the hospital that I could stress.
Yeah.
Before they'd done anything else. And it was just sort of like, it was frustrating. It was downhearted because I'd finally taken a move and I thought I was about to die and I did something about it. And here they are like, yeah, you're too young. You're too young.
Right.
Okay, well, great. Can't wait to get the bill for that.
Right.
And that being said, I really get it. I really do. Everybody was really nice and they had just installed a new system. So it was kind of chaotic. But they were fighting about it because somebody was like, oh, she's too young for that. And the guy was like, did you see what I saw?
Did he? Wow.
Yeah. I don't know. I think that whole kind of dismissal, we probably shouldn't do that. I get that maybe statistics would indicate, but they're changing clearly.
Obviously.
So I'm also not that young. I'm young, but I'm not that young.
Right.
Anyway, I just wanted to clarify those points as I still work through this whole experience, as I'm still navigating it. Because I haven't been to the doctor in an embarrassingly long time too. So I think I'm kind of still in, not shock, but I'm like, oh yeah, that's what it was like. Because I had a lot of doctors when I was young be like, oh, that can't be right.
Right.
A week later, I'm in a hospital. I'm like, oh yeah. Turns out.
That's about right.
That's about right. Okay. So more health updates. And I'm sure me and Samantha will be back again with more. Oh, I didn't even mention there's a whole thing about on the other end of doctors being told they're too young all the time. So I do want to mention that. I believe that. I think that's probably a thing. So if you have any experiences with that on either side, please write in and let us know. You can email us at hello@stuffonevertoldyou.com. You can also find us on Blue Sky, Monster Podcast, or on Instagram and TikTok at Stuff One Never Told You. We're also on YouTube, and we have a book you can get wherever you get your books. Thanks as always to our super producer Christina, our executive producer Maya, and our contributor Joey.
Thank you.
And thanks to you for listening. Stuff One Never Told You is a production of iHeartRadio. For more podcasts from iHeartRadio, you can check out the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, wherever you listen to your favorite shows.